them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Monday, March 24th. The Montreal Canadiens are off, but the Canadiens traveled to St. Louis earlier this afternoon after practicing earlier this morning in Brassard, and the Canadiens will visit the St. Louis Blues tomorrow night. It's going to be a very tough road trip, the next 4 games, to cap off the month of March. The Canadiens will be in St. Louis tomorrow night. They'll be in Philadelphia on Thursday night. They'll be in Carolina on Friday night. They'll be in Florida on Sunday afternoon. 4 games on the road, travel to St. Louis, from St. Louis to Philly, from Philly to Carolina, from Carolina to Florida. 3 of those games will come in a span of 4 nights. Those 4 games will come in a span of 5.5 days. It won't be easy. Other teams competing for a wild card spot with the Montreal Canadiens in the East are in action tonight, notably the game between Columbus and the New York Islanders. And I think the last thing you want is both teams to pick up a point, at least in this hockey game. And as it stands, based on what I can see, there's about 40 seconds to go in regulation, and the 2 teams are tied. You would hope that Utah will do the Canadiens a favor and beat Detroit tonight. There's 18 minutes left in period number 2, and Detroit is up by a score of 2-1. Before these games happen tonight, the Canadiens, who held on to the second wildcard spot, were a point ahead of the New York Rangers, who, by the way, do not play tonight. 2 games in hand on the Rangers. 2 points ahead of the Islanders. They played the same amount of games before tonight's games. 4 points ahead of Columbus, same amount of games before tonight's games. 5 points ahead of Detroit, same amount of games before tonight's games. And once again, I told you that the Montreal Canadiens will be in St. Louis tomorrow night. I can also tell you that Detroit will be in Colorado tomorrow night. Pittsburgh will be in Tampa tomorrow night. And the New York Rangers will be in Los Angeles tomorrow night. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Playground, giving away over $135,000 in cash prizes this month at their cash game poker table, 7 days a week, 5 nights a week. Go and play anytime from 9:30 to 2 p.m. or enjoy the late night games from 9:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a chance to win. Payouts every 30 minutes. Get in on the action at Playground. Visit playground.ca for details. You see that beer behind me in that fridge? Yeah. Well, you're going to see a lot of Bittt Tibi in that fridge, do you? Yes, you do. Because they launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for nice spring days ahead here with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 to 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. I apologize in advance if I'm a little bit hoarse tonight. I don't know if you can sense it or hear it, but I could definitely feel it. Yeah, the change of weather does that to me just when I think it's nice. And some people are going to say it's not weather, it's a draft, whatever it is. I believe it's a little bit of both. Also brought to you in part by insurance. You know, all insurance isn't created equal. You know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product. Right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business, call 514-363-3636 or visit their website, www.accentassurance.com. Without further ado, let's bring in our collaborator every Monday night. Joins us, Eric Engels of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca. Eric, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
A little under the weather. I got my Kleenex here to my left, and I feel like I got something in my throat or losing my voice. And a suppository usually does the trick. And a warm, it does, neolaryngitis. It works like a charm. And a warm cup of milk with Manuka honey. It usually does the trick. So, but that's going to happen in about 45 minutes time. So I'm going to have to wait about 45 minutes before we do that. Get to bed, and there we go. I'll wait bottle up. Okay. Let me take a look at
what an introduction.
Yeah, I know. Let me take a look at the scoreboard. I want to see if there's winning goal.
While you're looking at it, you know that Detroit has those 2 goals on 3 shots. Now they're up to 4 in the game. But,
oh, really? Eh?
They're into the second period.
That's insane.
It looks like Utah's getting the type of goaltending Detroit's been getting for most of the season. So
yeah,
see what happens in that game. Looks like this Islanders game is going straight to overtime with Columbus.
At least the Brinkcat got me a point because I'm going to need every point I can get. I had a 23-point lead in the hockey pool. Evaporate 5 days.
And now you're hoping that the Canadiens don't have a 2-point lead that evaporates in 20.
Killed me in my right. Suzuki, Caulfield, and Liney, who all belong to one player. They've just killed me in my hockey pool. Yeah. Anyway, so they're in overtime. There you have it. The Islanders and Columbus are 3-3 in overtime. And I'm going to continue to give you an update on that as soon as we have a game-winning goal. And if not, Shane Gaumont and Master Control, if I don't see it, maybe you can give it to me. All right? Andrew says, Tony, thank you for making that suppository public service announcement. You're very It works like a charm. What can I tell you? Neolaryngitis. Yeah.
As long as we don't have to watch you take it, it's all good.
Hey, are you concerned about
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless
Are you concerned about the amount of games that Montembeault's playing?
No.
In terms of not the amount of games in a row, but the amount of games that he's played thus far this season?
No, not overly. I mean,
it's a career high for him, and that's why I'm asking, right?
Yeah, I think we're probably well beyond that. No, at this point, I haven't looked.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely yes. Because the most games that he had played was 41 1 year ago. He's now played 52 games.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people were concerned going into the Colorado game, and I think that was justifiable considering the way he looked in the last 2 before that. Though he thought he had a very good game against Ottawa.
Yeah,
despite 1 goal getting in that he knows he should have stopped. I thought 2 of the 3 goals that Ottawa scored were ones that he should have stopped, but he said he didn't see the other ones. So, I don't, I understood the concern going into the last game. I think the way he played the last game was, I know people didn't like the second goal, but that's a bang, bang play while he's moving. I thought he gave them a chance to win. Like what he did after they tied the game too was unbelievable. So, I'm not overly concerned about it, but we'll see how he responds in getting the next start, right, against St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, look, he's played 52 games. Once again, there's 13 games left in the regular season. And if he ends up playing 8 of them, he's going to hit 60. And look, I remember Carey Price, I think, played 66 one season or whatever, and some goalies can do it. And some goalies have a little bit of a harder time doing it, but that's a lot of games. Like to go from 41, which is your career high, to maybe go to 60 or 61, that's a big jump.
I don't think there's much of a debate right now that he gives the Canadiens a better chance of winning than Dobish does, and that's saying a lot considering how good Dobish was through the start of his career and what he's looked like in the last couple of starts that he's had, which I think were very similar games despite very different scores, right? He lost 1-0 to Calgary, and he competed his ass off in the game, but he looked the same as the game where he allowed 5 goals to Seattle. Pucks bouncing off of him right into the slot, and just a lot of dangerous opportunities where he's moving. It wasn't exactly a quiet nights in his net. Now, he can rebound from that, and he's going to need to have an opportunity to do that if he is the guy. The main question for me, and I was almost coming to the rink today for practice, wondering, like, is there a chance the Canadiens are going to send him down and bring Kaiden Primo up? Because obviously Kaiden Primo has been on fire with the Laval Rocket.
Yeah.
It's well noted at this point. I think if the Canadiens had a clear answer as to which one of them would give them the best opportunity to start to win a game, like, because one of them is going to have to start in the next few.
Yeah.
If they had a really clear answer to that, that might have happened already. If they clearly believed that Primo would give them a better chance than Dobish at this level, maybe he'd be here already. Or maybe, Laval is playing in between the St. Louis game that's already designated to Montembeault, and back-to-back is coming, and they'll push the decision down the line after watching Dobish practice again. I don't know. But I think it's a legitimate question to be asking right now, is like, which one of those two goaltenders gives you the best chance? Because we know Montembeault's not going to play all 13 games here.
Yeah. I saw something earlier today, and I think it's Jay Fresh Hockey who did some kind of analytic. Did you have a chance to see that by any chance?
I think it came across my algorithm about that based on goals saved above the expected, the metric is something like 14 points in the standings.
That is correct.
Additional points in the standings, because it's like Sport Logic does this metric also.
Yes.
Just basically points saved, games saved.
Only Connor Hellebuck has actually been responsible for more points picked up in the standings.
Look,
that's Samuel Montembeault.
It matches the eye test. I think when you look at the NHL Edge data, what Montembeault is able to do on the real grade A opportunities boosts those numbers that we're talking about. It's where he needs to improve is on the mid-range to long-range shots that beat him a little more often than they should for a goaltender of his caliber. If he can clean that up, if he can clean dropping the puck a little bit in front of him, which, look, like Connor Hellebuck is a blocker of a goaltender. He's soft and he makes good saves, but he does allow rebounds. Like we saw that in the Four Nations tournament, that in the games that he played where everybody was singing his praises, he was allowing, 17 rebounds on 21 shots. That kind of ratio. So, you take all the numbers and you match them with the eye test. And I think Montembeault's been very good this year. I think he's been better than the 900 save percentage would allow you to believe if you were just looking at that. But he needs to keep it up, and it's not as if he can't improve in certain areas too.
It's cool to see this, though, because, it was just a couple of days ago, I had a call on the radio from a gentleman who called and said that, Samuel Montembeault is a number 2 in the National Hockey League. He's not a number 1 goalie. And I said, no, come on. Like, let's be honest. And he's like, well, he's never had a 905 save percentage. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, he's never played for a great team, right? The last 3 years, the Canadiens have been in a rebuild. They finished last 1 year, 5th last another year, 5th last another year. I'm sorry, but it's not conceivable to think that he's going to go with a 905 save percentage playing for a rebuilding team. And then we talked about everywhere that they lack depth in the team and the fact. And anyway, he didn't buy it, and he said he's a number 2. So I said, what? So you know what? I continue to say to people, look, everyone knows he's not the best goalie in the league. Everyone knows that when he gets hot, he can compete with anybody. But obviously, the difference between being the best and a guy who just gets hot every now and then is doing it for a considerable amount of time and doing it consistently. But the way I look at it is there's 32 teams in the National Hockey League and 32 teams have a number 1 goalie. There's different categories for those goalies. Some are better than others. Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, maybe Shesterkin, maybe Sorokin. I mean, there are goalies that maybe Ottinger, depending. Like some are in one category, some are in the other, some are in the other. There might be 5 in category 1. There might be 5 in category 2. There might be 10 in category 3, and there might be 12 in category 4. But I believe there are 32 number 1 goaltenders in the National Hockey League minimum. And I say to everyone, name me 31 better than Samuel Montembeault. And I don't know
if it's as general as that, Tony. It's a good point, but I think, you have different categories of number 1s. You have 1As and you have 1Bs. And right now, Montembeault probably better fits the category of being a 1B versus like a guy that should probably share his net more if he had a more established, reliable goaltender with him. And I'm not taking anything away from Dobish, and I don't want to take anything away from Primo either, but these are 2 young goaltenders trying to establish themselves. Just as Sam is young in his development as a number 1 goaltender. So Can he become a 1A? It seems as though his best opportunity to prove that he is one of those guys is between now and the end of this regular season and potentially beyond. So, we could talk a lot about what he's done already. Let's see what he does now, because the Canadiens are going to need him. They are really going to need the best version of him over the final 13 games if you figure he's likely to play 10 of them.
2:45 left in overtime between the Columbus and the New York Islanders. And based on what I see here, they are still tied at 3. Now 2:30 left in overtime. So I got the NHL.com on, and I'm checking that tracker as we go. Detroit is winning 2-1 in Utah. And these, of course, are teams that will be able to pick up some points in the standings here because but the Montreal Canadiens have on the New York Islanders 2 points up on the Islanders and 4 points up on Columbus before these games. Basically, you wanted Columbus to win this game in regulation. It didn't happen. You still want Columbus to win this game in overtime because the last thing that you want is to get the Islanders to have the same amount of points as the Canadiens, but the Islanders to have, or the Canadiens to have a game in hand. You'd still rather have the teams be behind you in the standings as much as possible. And in an ideal world, you want Utah to come back and end up beating the Detroit Red Wings. So what a game on Saturday night, eh? What a game.
It was wild, man.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, you watch that first period and you're thinking these are two teams in two different leagues. And that's considering that the Canadiens have played such great hockey to put themselves in the position they found themselves going into the game. Colorado, you look at them on paper and you know what kind of team they are, right? And then they bring it to the ice and reaffirm what you would have been thinking to begin with, that if they weren't the favorites to win the Stanley Cup going into the game, they looked like the favorites after that first period. And the Canadiens, come out of it down 2-0, and then shortly after that are down 3-0. And Slavkovsky, who is admittedly, we talked to him after the game, is not playing a good game, okay? That was a rough game that he was playing until all of a sudden he makes a great play to find a goal.
Yes.
And gives them life. And you think that life is extinguished with the goal that gets scored to make it 4-1 from Nelson. And then the Canadiens just said, enough with this. We're going to come in waves. And
I had this discussion, by the way, with JC earlier today, who told me that Slavkovsky had a really bad game because he didn't have any takeaways and he didn't have any hits. And I said to him, and I understood his point. At the end of the night, he scored 2 goals, though, after.
Listen, I rarely agree with the guy, but that wasn't a good game from Slavkovsky, and he ended up with, you often hear these guys talk about their truth, and Marty, focuses a lot on telling the truth about the game afterwards. And
but his goals were 2 good goals, though, Eric.
His goals were 2 great individual efforts to get
correct.
The back of the net.
Yes.
Okay. His execution, his handling of the puck, his play in general, his pace, it wasn't on par with what we've seen from him over the last month of great hockey that he's been playing. In the meantime, he's on pace to score as many goals as last year and more points, which is really good considering the way this season started and what it looked like it was going to finish like before he goes into his new contract. And at 20 years old, you take all that and say, okay, he's going to keep stepping forward. This is good for him. But in a game where he didn't play his best, he made a couple of great plays. He had a rough game. He didn't like his game, and that's good. I wouldn't want him to like his game because now you know that he's going to go into the next one hungry to play better. And the Canadiens are going to have to, because no team has been better than the St. Louis Blues since the Four Nations break. Canadiens were up there with them, but the Blues have won at over an 80% clip since the break to put themselves in the same type of situation that Montreal is in, have control over their own destiny. Go ahead. I feel like you have an update for us. You have one?
No, I don't, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
No, I'm taking a look to see if there is, but I believe that they're now in a shootout.
Well,
they are in a shootout.
There we go.
Columbus and the New York Islanders tied at 3. They're in a shootout.
Big comeback for Sean Monahan tonight.
Yes, Sean Monahan came back, and Sean Monahan got on the score sheet. I saw that as well. And by the way, he's coming back just at the right time for the Columbus Blue Jackets, because they missed him, man, and they missed him badly. But yeah, he's had. He picked up 2 assists in tonight's hockey game.
Yeah, he's had an unbelievable season. He's, to see it interrupted the way it was with an injury that, as it was healing, he had a setback and was out for this long. The Blue Jackets have had an incredibly hard time scoring without him. So and if he has 2 assists tonight, I have to check the numbers, but I think he's a point per game. I think he's a point per game over the season in the first year of his new contract. And considering everything he went through, I'm just checking it right now.
Yeah.
With the loss of Johnny Gaudreau, who's his closest friend. Yeah. So he came into this game with 14 goals and 41 points in 41 games. And he's going to come out of it with more points than games played. So he's an incredible story. And I got to add that
Slavkovsky, by the way, if we can, for players 21 or younger, since the return of the Four Nations face-off, has the second most goals of players 21 or younger with 8 goals.
Yeah. Who's number 1?
Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah, okay. Pretty good player. He also signed a big deal.
He's an amazing player, by the way.
Like, what Sean Monahan has done, coming to Montreal, a lot of people in Calgary said to me, this guy will never be the same. He'll never be able to play at that level again. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him out of the NHL, is what people were saying before he came to Montreal with a first-round pick. He left after some really good work with the Canadiens, got them another pick in the deal out. He signs a big deal with Columbus, which he earned after, going with Meg and keeping up his good play. And to see him over a point per game despite an injury interrupting it all again, like he's an incredible. He's worthy of the Masterton Trophy year over year with his dedication to the game.
I think Wyatt Johnston that we just talked about might be the best draft pick of the 2021 NHL draft.
He's a damn good player. And he had a rough start to this year, too. And I was talking with Jim Nill. I did an interview with Jim Nill.
Yeah. By the way, he was drafted 23rd, for those who are wondering.
Yeah. I did an interview with Jim Nill a week ago, talking about signing Johnson and the need to get that done, and 5-year deal that Johnson ends up getting. And I remember talking to Jim earlier in the season about the slow start for Johnson and the reality that, he was living with Joe Pavelski. And then, Pavelski moves on and he's kind of on his own and doesn't have Pavelski around the team with him anymore. And it's a big adjustment for a young player. So what an incredible player that kid is. He was
Blue Jackets won, by the way. Blue Jackets won. Pardon me. Go ahead. Blue Jackets won.
That's a big win for Montreal. It's a big win for Columbus because they desperately needed one. It's a big win for Montreal too. But now they've got more than one team chasing them down. One team that got a little bit closer, one team that didn't get as close as they wanted to in the New York Islanders. So Canadiens still in a playoff spot. They would have been no matter what happened tonight because of the games played situation. But this race is, the one advantage they have is games in hand.
Yeah.
I want to take issue with one thing that everybody's saying, by the way.
Pardon me, Eric. Montreal 75 in a second wildcard spot because Ottawa's got the first one. The Rangers have 74. The Canadiens have 2 games in hand. The Islanders have 74, 1 point less than Montreal. The Canadiens have a game in hand. The Columbus Blue Jackets have 73, 2 points less than Montreal. The Canadiens have a game in hand. The Red Wings are 5 points behind Montreal. They played the same amount of games, but the Red Wings are up right now in their game with a win. They'll be 3 points behind Montreal, and the Canadiens will have a game in hand. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, for everybody who's out there saying stuff like, well, the Canadiens have the easiest strength of schedule, and they're playing less playoff teams, and I don't think strength of schedule is a factor in any of this. They're about to play 3 of the next 4 games. They're about to play against St. Louis, and then a back-to-back with Philadelphia and Carolina. And you were right, Tony, when you said it's 3 games in 4 days, which is always the hardest part of the trip. It's not the bad. I even spoke with Lane Hudson about this today. He said it's always the 3rd game in the 4th day that's harder than the second of the back-to-back because you don't have that much time to think between the back-to-backs and you just go out and play. You're still in game mode. That game against Florida to finish the trip is at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty tight turnaround off a back-to-back.
Yeah.
That's
why I think the same goalie that plays on Friday night, I don't think can play on Sunday afternoon at 1. So I'm thinking that Montembeault will probably get Tuesday and Thursday.
We'll see what happens Tuesday
and Sunday.
We'll see what happens Tuesday. I don't know about that.
Well, the way they're going, I'm thinking that even if Montembeault has a bad night. I'm thinking he's still their goalie the next game.
What if he gets sick? What if he gets hurt? You never know.
There you have it. By the way, though, we talked about is the amount of games on 2 occasions this year. Eric, he played 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
So between November 2nd and November 26th, and between December 3rd and December 23rd, he played 10 games in a row on 2 different occasions.
Listen, I thought Dobish was going to get the start in St. Louis if Primo wasn't recalled to do it. Now he's not going to. It's going to be Montembeault. So we'll see what happens with the goaltending. We probably talked enough about it. I'm just saying, like, the strength of schedule thing, like, the Canadiens have played great against teams that are in playoff spots this year.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a factor. I don't think it's something that you should be crossing your fingers and saying, well, this is to their advantage.
I thought Dobish was going to get the start on Saturday night, to tell you the truth.
I thought so too.
I thought
it would have been fully justified for Marty to go that way.
Yeah.
I do like, though, that, Eric Raymond, the goaltending coach of the Canadiens, told Montembeault he'd be starting the next game, that Marty texted him on the off day and said, I believe in you and we're going with you and you get ready and we're confident. I love that he came out to the media and said what he said. It's not an easy thing to do, knowing that you could be wearing that as a really bad decision at the end of the night. And it proved to be a good one. Like, I thought Montembeault was phenomenal towards the end of that game when it mattered most, right? Like, he came up with 2 saves on each of McKinnon and Makar in overtime. Like, he made some great stops down the stretch of that game. 2 on Drouin in the 3rd period late, as the Canadiens desperately needed a point. Like, he's battling hard, Montembeault. He's playing good hockey. So we'll see what he offers against the St. Louis team that's been on fire. And we'll see what happens with the backup position. Like, I don't know if it's settled. Like, I'm concerned about what I saw from Dobish the last 2 games. But one thing I really love about Dobish is how hard he competes. He competes really hard. That even when he doesn't look quite in the net and is not playing on top of things the way you want him to, he really, really competes out there.
Yeah. No, he competes for sure. The guy's a gamer, guaranteed. Speaking of gamers, Kaiden Guhle at practice earlier today. It's not the first time we've seen him at practice. We've seen him now on the ice for a couple of weeks. And Marty says he's going to make the trip to St. Louis, Philadelphia, Carolina, and Florida. When do you think he's going to play?
I'm not sure it's going to be on this trip. I think
I thought I read somewhere today he was going to be on the trip.
No. He's going on the trip.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
I'm not sure he's going to play.
I hear you. Okay, good.
But I know that the most meaningful steps he can continue to take in his recovery, the best opportunity he has to get closer to game action, is to be with the team, even if they're going to have one practice, is to continue testing things, seeing how the strength in the muscle continues to build up, doing the work that he needs to do with the Canadiens trainers, their conditioning guys. I think it's a great sign. It's a boost for the team energy-wise to have him there with them, knowing that he's getting closer. But they can't rush with this. Like, I wrote about it today, Tony. Like, I don't know if you saw the interviews with Gabriel Landeskog going around. And I want to be careful about the way I frame this because I'm not comparing the 2 injuries specifically. Gabriel Landeskog in 2020 had his vastus lateralis, which is the side muscle of the quad, sliced by Cale Makar in the bubble. And because the bubble playoffs were in September, the next season started in January, he came back from that injury thinking everything was good. But he wasn't admittedly at 100% in terms of rebuilding the muscle to the strength he would require to play game after game at NHL rigor and pace. And what he ended up doing was compensating a lot with his knee and damaging his knee to the degree that he hasn't played since 2022. That's
amazing. He hasn't played since they won the Cup in 2022. That's incredible.
He said he never had knee problems before, so he knows this whole thing started with the strength in his muscle and that quad not being quite what it needed to be and him compensating with the knee. Now, I don't know the extent of Kaiden Guhle's laceration. I know that it was severe enough that he needed surgery to close the wound.
Yeah, it all depends on how deep it was, right?
I don't know how long it would be. I spoke to a trainer today about rebuilding muscle. And he said in a good case scenario where you're talking about a professional athlete who's surrounded by the best possible resources and people and training abilities and the condition that they go into the injury with and come out of it with, that within 6 weeks, it's reasonable to expect that muscle could be built up, but that you couldn't replicate the rigors that muscle will go through in a game, in the gym or on the ice at practice. So I know the Canadiens are going to be very careful with this. They will not put him back in until they feel he is ready. And ultimately, Guhle has to be as honest as he can be about what the strength is in that area so that he doesn't cause problems in other areas or even in that area. And again, I don't know that Landeskog's injury was the exact same injury that Guhle's. No two injuries are exactly the same. But I know that situation that happened with Landeskog have led the Canadiens to exercise caution. You know, I spoke to Kent Hughes last week. I asked him about Guhle. I asked him if he saw the clips of Landeskog talking about his situation. He said he did, and that he's spoken with the Canadiens trainers. And if for whatever reason, you know, the Canadiens remain in this race, and they need to rush Guhle back because they're slipping suddenly, they won't. You know, they'll give him as much time as he needs. If he says he's not playing in St. Louis, we know that.
No, and you know what? This trip is difficult because of the amount of games in the amount of days to actually make a comeback. Because, for example, let's just say he plays in Philadelphia on Thursday. Do you want him playing back to back and then playing the Friday night as well in Carolina? No. And let's say if he plays Friday night in Carolina, do you want him playing a day and a half later versus Florida? No. Yeah. It's a difficult trip to make a comeback.
Logistically, yes, that's tough. The question will be, how does Guhle respond to pushing it further in practice? How does he respond to his treatment off the ice? How much stronger does he feel by the time? And if he says he's ready, I don't think they'll hold him back. But they're still going to tread with caution. And the situation they find themselves in, if they're able to strengthen their hold on a playoff spot in St. Louis, buys them more time to allow him to continue to strengthen things. If for whatever reason he's not ready and they go on a skid, and they fall further out of playoff contention, Kent Hughes has already said, we're not going to risk it with this player. Like there's going to be there's always some level of risk for a player coming back from injury. There's no situation where it's 1,000% and everything's going to be great no matter what. Okay. But they're not going to assume any additional risk if for whatever reason the Canadiens hit the skids and Guhle's just not ready to come back, and they're not going to force him back in there in games that would potentially be meaningless down the stretch. So they're being careful about it. They should be careful about it. He's starting a 6-year, $33 million contract next year, and he's very important to the team's future. And even with him playing, I don't want to say it's impossible that they'll win the Stanley Cup, but it's pretty unlikely. You know, I think we got a glimpse of what it could look like for the Canadiens in the playoffs as an 8th seed, based on what we saw against Colorado. And I'm not saying that it would automatically go that way against Washington or Florida. I think they give themselves a chance with how hard they work.
Yeah.
But you're not going to risk Kaiden Guhle's future if he's not ready to play games. I'm telling you that.
The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. It's also brought to you in part by one of our sponsors, which is Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Marty talking about players not playing at 100%. Let's hear from him.
It's true. You're not going to play every game at 100, you know. So what kind of player are you when you're 80, 70, you know? And I look like a guy like Andy, right, who's hasn't been 100, but you got to find a way to contribute. And it's not always like physically I got to work hard or something. It's, you know, it's part of it. But to me, it's mentally, like you have to be engaged, and you might not necessarily be able to help the team as much as you can, but you can't hurt it more just because you're not 100%. So, you know, I feel our B game has improved a lot, and I think that's because of that.
All right, there you have it, Marty St. Louis. I think our B game has improved A lot.
I think he's right. I think their ability to correct themselves within games has led to particularly the last 3 results they've had where they picked up points in all 3 of those games where they're trailing in the third period.
That's a positive in the month of March. Like every time they lose, it's a 1-goal game and they're picking up points in a lot of them.
It is, but it's a caution, okay? And this question came from me, and there was a reason I was asking it, okay?
Okay.
We saw the Canadiens go on a 5 1-on-1 stretch before they got to that, what Marty termed the chase to the break. And they were exhausted, and their schedule caught up to them, and they lost 8 of 9 games. And in those 9 games, we saw their B game over and over and over again, and it just didn't find a way to prevail, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They had the difference then is that they still, coming out of that, had 26 games left in the season. It's very hard to manufacture urgency, okay? You try to. As a coach, you're trying to say the situation is urgent. We are chasing towards a break. We need to pick up as many points as we can to put ourselves in a great spot coming out of that break. But the difference this time around is they can actually see the finish line. It's not enough to just know that it's there. Think about running a marathon, which you and I, if, let's face it, if both of us were running marathons, we'd look a little different than we do on the podcast.
It's safe to say I would not complete the marathon, yes.
But mentally, you've ran on a treadmill for 5-10 kilometers maybe and known that when you get to kilometer 3, it could be a little challenging knowing that you're not even halfway there, right?
Yeah.
There is a feeling like you can do it.
Yeah.
But the difference when you get to 8 and can see the finish line and what you're able to push yourself through, it's a mental challenge. And right now that the Canadiens can see the finish line, it's critical that their B game is in a better place than it was even at the beginning or middle of February as they were chasing towards the break and it wasn't winning them games. Because we're going to see their B game, and we have seen it a couple times in the last week, emerge only naturally because they've been in playoff mode since the beginning of this break, right?
Yeah.
And that has required them to dig deep and play very hard and play with an effort that not a lot of teams have matched. If you watch that Colorado game over again, what team in the NHL is working as hard as the Canadiens currently are to win games? So you know that 13 games left. It's not a lot. They can see the finish line, but it is a lot in terms of summoning the energy required to get yourself through.
They don't give up. My only concern is that if they make the playoffs, they're going to run out of gas once they get there. The way they run out of gas right before the Four Nations face off, right?
You cross that bridge when
everyone will take it, Eric. Everyone will take it, right?
So the question is, I think we all know the best time to be peaking is as you're getting into the final 10 games before the playoffs, so that you're really hitting your peak as the playoffs come, or to get yourself in and you're taking that momentum. The Canadiens have hit it, in the last couple of weeks leading into those final 13 to 10 games, which means we will see their B game emerge, and their B game has to be in a place where they can correct themselves within the game and find a way to get those points and wins. And this is a new test that they're facing.
Yeah.
And what you hope is that being able to see that finish line brings out something better at 80% and 70%. Because when they were at 80 and 70 and even down to 60 in some of those games in the chase to the break, they didn't have that tenacious forecheck, back check, all out energy mentality. They couldn't summon it. The urgency was too manufactured. It wasn't what it is right now. And I was speaking to Matheson about this. I was speaking to St. Louis about it, which is where you got that clip from. I was speaking to Arbor Jacki about it, who said there's something special developing in here in terms of how badly we want this. Let's see how they deal with it. Let's see what they do. I don't think it's about strength of schedule, as I said before. I think it's, how good is their 70, 80%? Because that's what they're going to be at, given how much energy they've expended to put themselves in this position.
All right, okay. Let's hear from Jaden Struble. We'll get a couple of clips.
It's huge. You're at the point where you check the standings every single day, and you'll see all the movement. And it's so exciting to be a part of. But I feel like we're a good road team. We've shown up on the road especially recently. So it's I don't think it's necessarily like a hindering factor. I think it's something that we're excited about, and get some good games, good points on the road, and then come back and finish strong.
All right, okay. Jaden Struble has played, I think, really, really good hockey in the last month. We talked about Kaiden Guhle before, and of course, the big question going around town and among Montreal Canadiens fans is when Guhle comes back, let's just say everyone else is healthy, who will be the odd man out? And well, Guhle's not back yet. And I don't have the answer to this question because I haven't spoken to anybody. But let's just say Guhle would be back tomorrow, right? Which he won't. Mm-hmm. My gut tells me Struble's going to come out even though he's played great hockey in the last month.
I don't think there's a chance of that.
Of Struble coming out?
No chance.
The guy who's having the hardest time, I find, or it's more laborious out of all of them, I think is Savard. Mm-hmm. But Savard is a veteran. Savard kills penalties. Mm-hmm. He blocks 8,000 shots per game. About 1,000 of them are with his teeth. He's a leader. And I don't know if they'll have the courage to be able to make that move. At the same time, let's keep in mind that even though they are trying to be really competitive here, there is a rebuild going on, and you would love for Jaden Struble to be a part of these games. So talk to me about what you just said and elaborate on what you just said.
I think so long as Jaden Struble continues to play the way he's playing, he's not going anywhere in the lineup, including away from Lane Hutson. I think he'll be his partner. I think what you could see happen, despite how Matheson has been used with Carrier, is one of two things. Either Guhle comes in and plays with Savard or Xhekaj in a rotation, or he comes in and plays with Carrier and Matheson goes and plays in a rotation of Savard and Xhekaj. And that's assuming, A, that everybody's healthy, B, that everybody continues to play the same way. If Struble's game dips between now and when Guhle returns, then he puts himself at risk. If Xhekaj's game rises, he puts himself at less risk. Xhekaj was talking about how excited he is that Guhle's back. It's one of his closest friends on the team and can't wait for him to get back in the lineup, even if it's unfortunately at his own expense. That's the reality that he's got to deal with right now.
Yeah.
So hopefully he pushes his game up. I think Xhekaj right now, and I don't want to be unfair to David Savard, but I think part of the things we're seeing from Xhekaj is a lot to do with Savard's inability to close the play as fast as you need him to in certain areas of the ice.
Yeah.
Just put him in a tough spot here and there. I'm not saying Xhekaj can't play better. He can, and he has expectations of himself. And there are parts of the game where Savard is very stabilizing, and Xhekaj needs to be better. So, but to me,
let's also
it's both those guys. It's not Struble that we're looking at if all things remain equal.
Okay.
No
perfect.
way.
Fantastic. Let me add this. If Kaiden Guhle were to come back during this road trip, right, because of its challenges, 3 games in 4 nights, 4 games in 5.5 days, I think you would see a couple of defensemen come out because I don't think, I think you would see maybe Xhekaj come out a game. I think maybe you would see David Savard come out a game. And
maybe you would see Yoel Armia come out, who's dealing with an injury, and
the Canadiens stretch 70. But they rarely go that way. But I understand if Armia is hurt. Yeah.
Well, they got used to playing essentially with 11 forwards for a while.
Yes.
And they do Marty definitely likes the opportunity to get his top guns out for extra shifts, or his defensive deployment for extra shifts in terms of those forwards like Dvorak and Evans. So I think that's something we could see. I'm not saying it's something we will see. And again, there's too much to consider here without knowing where they're going to be by the time Guhle comes back and when Guhle's coming back. But if everything remains equal and Struble keeps playing how he is, which he leads the team at +10 over the plus minus is not a particularly representative stat all the time. And I know that's big in the Twitter sphere today, talking about Morgan Riley and Lane Hutson, who's been on the ice, or Mike Matheson for a lot of empty net goals against. In Struble's case, over the last 13 games the Canadiens have played since the break, very representative of how good he is playing. Not only not only defensively, he's getting pucks to the net. He's in the offensive, and I find with Struble, it's all mental. It's not just confidence, it's focus. And one of the things that was driving Marty a little crazy earlier in the year, and justifiably, was that Struble could play, 6 really good shifts in a period and totally lose focus for one and really cost the Canadiens.
Yeah.
And he talked about having to elevate his floor and really focus that every action matters on the ice. Struble's focus in these games, as he's had a bit of a runway to build up his game and his confidence, it has not gone away at any point. And I just, it's so critical what he's been able to prove over this time, right? Like, he is in a contract year. He has arbitration rights, not that he's going to need to use them. But he was going from the border of the roster to becoming a player that, like, you're going to need in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And so long as that doesn't change, he's not coming out of this lineup. And I don't think he's moving away from Lane Hutson. I really think that partnership is going really well for the Canadiens right now. I can't take anything away from Carrier and Matheson together, but I do feel that, they have flexibility when Guhle comes back with those two guys, that he could either play with Matheson or Carrier, where he looked his best this year, let's face it, and that Matheson could potentially stabilize another pairing, and you'd still have the guys you need on the ice more often than the others going. You'd be playing more with 5 defensemen than 6. You shouldn't see it as a pair. Like, if Matheson were to move next to Jack or Savard, you shouldn't see it as like, well, that's the third pairing for the Canadiens. Matheson's going to get on the ice for his 23, 24 minutes a game.
Let's end this with Marty St. Louis talking about aggressive patience.
I mean, I think when I took the job, I talked about having aggressive patience, and I feel like that's been the key. Is I know that I have to be patient, but it's what you do with that time. And I feel I've been very aggressive and demanding and asking our players to really have details in all parts of the game. And it starts with me. When I have to teach the details. I have to show example. I have to be direct. You have to teach, and you have to convince why we're playing a certain way. So I feel I've been very aggressive with that, knowing that it's going to take time. So aggressive patience. I think it's been the key.
Aggressive patience, eh? Good one.
I wish you would just say aggression and patience, because you can't put those two things together. People say I never criticize Marty St. Louis. Well, I don't think that term makes a whole lot of sense. But what he's saying about having to have the patience for it to develop properly, but being aggressive with the things you want to develop, that makes sense. Putting the two words together, not so much.
Yeah, by the way, I saw a goal that Columbus scored in the shootout. I was just watching it there.
Was it Marchenko?
Was it Fantilli?
I don't know. I didn't see that. I haven't seen the goals. I just assumed when you said goal Columbus, that Kirill Marchenko was the guy scoring it.
Marchenko, by the way, tied the game up.
Saw that goal.
Yeah. Mind you, he's been a little bit cold as of late.
Yeah,
I have him.
He has 28 goals and 62 points this year and is plus 28. So
yeah, I know, but I would like for him to have 100 points so I could win my pool. But I hear you.
Still young.
Yeah, I know, but I need to win the pool this year. But anyway,
hold on.
Listen, I think we've tackled
7 games, 26 goals, 63 points, plus 28.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
He is 24 years old. Pretty good player.
Yeah, he's a good one, that guy. He's definitely a good one.
So skilled.
By the way, drafted 49th overall. Second round, 2018. That's the year the Canadiens drafted Kotkaniemi at third. They should have drafted Marchenko.
A lot of teams probably should have.
We're talking about Brady
Hutson profile.
We're talking about Brady Tkachuk, and we're talking about Quinn Hughes, and now we've realized that Marchenko was drafted. My God!
You know what we didn't talk about?
Unbelievable.
So I got a lot of heat for this, which is okay. I don't mind. I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of heat. I didn't defend the Canadiens' decision to put Christian Dvorak in the shootout. I just knew that people were going to lose their minds as soon as they saw that Christian Dvorak was shooting in the shootout. So I posted a stat that he's tied he came into that shootout tied
Yeah.
with among all NHL active shooters in the shootout. He was tied for first overall at 40.9% success rate.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he's scored with the Canadiens, which some people pointed out. I think also you could point to the fact that he was red hot, and the goal that he scored against Ottawa, you know, coaches do consider these things. They consider what they look like in practice, and they consider the statistics. I'm not I would have sent Hutson before him. I would have sent
Slav.
I would have sent Slav before him. But I'm not. The only reason I put that out there was because I know people were like, how the hell would they go with Dvorak? And it's not so crazy.
Yeah. Listen,
but I was wondering, what did you think of the decision?
You know what? Look, I would have sent Slav and Hutson as well, but we don't know if we would have scored. Like I never like picking on those things because
it's a shootout?
Even though I have in the past, because they were chosen for a reason. There's a thought process behind everything. And you know, it's basically it's not even hockey at that point. It's a shootout. And once again, you know, you don't know who's going to score and you don't know who's going to miss. And
it's like calling people out for 3-on-3 goals, like full ice 3-on-3.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen?
So what do you think is going to happen in this road trip?
You know what? I have no idea. Like I have no idea. I'm done. I'm done with the prediction business. Like I told you before the break, I remember we were talking before the Four Nations break.
They'll beat Philly because everybody does.
Maybe. Or maybe they'll be the one team that loses to them. Who knows? Like, you remember before the Four Nations break, you said, you know what, Eric? They lost 8 of 9. They're in sell mode. I said, I agree with you. And you said, it's over. It's over. And I said, Tony, the way the Eastern Conference has gone this year, it wouldn't surprise me. We'll have to bring up the tape at some point. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if the Canadiens came out of the break and won 5 of 6 games. And I know that's not likely to happen, but I think it's possible because that's just the way the season has gone. It's like win 6 in a row, lose 10. Like, who knows with this Eastern Conference?
I'm a little bit worried about this travel. If they can get through this travel, if they can get through these 4 games pretty good, I like their chances.
I know, but people are going to declare that if they don't get through these 4 games pretty good, that'll be it. And that would have been the make or break moment of the season. And there will still be 9 games to play, and they'll be still where whatever happens pretty close to the race.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason they lost all 4 games. So I don't know. Like,
listen, you know what I know?
Year, man, I thought Detroit has been in a coffin for half the season, and the other half, it's like they're on a 7-game winning streak. So like, they were up 2-1. Speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, they're up 2-1 on Utah throughout our entire podcast. They had 5 shots on net through 2 periods. So
are they still at? They're still at 5 shots. That's unbelievable. They had 2 shots in the first and 3 shots in the second.
What was the game?
Unbelievable.
What was the game the Islanders won? Who were they playing? Vancouver? They were outshot 39-12 and won the game. Like, the shit that's happening in the league this year is ridiculous. I mean, I just came from the GM meetings where we all talk about U.S. Thanksgiving and that being a barometer for who's going to make playoffs and who isn't.
Yeah.
14 of 16 teams in the East have been in a playoff spot since Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving. That's like unheard of.
And by the way, when everyone looks back at U.S. Thanksgiving, remember usually every year everyone around U.S. Thanksgiving says, okay, the teams that are in a playoff spot right now are going to make it. The teams that aren't. Oh, my God, there's so much more hockey to be played after that date.
Yeah, but it's traditionally for a long time, and Elliot Friedman was the one who's kept the staff for a very long time. If you were 4 points or more out of a playoff spot on U.S. Thanksgiving, there had been like within a 10 to 15 year period, like 4 teams or 5 teams total that made the playoffs out of that situation.
One of them won the cup, St. Louis.
Yeah. Listen, the Canadiens were dead last in the league after 17 games this year, and since then they have the 11th best record in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's that kind of year, man.
Enjoy.
What the hell is going to happen?
Are you on this trip?
I am not going to St. Louis. I am going to Philadelphia, Carolina, and Florida.
You're going to have a Philly cheesesteak.
I'm going to avoid eating a Philly cheesesteak because, as you can tell, I haven't been running marathons.
Yes.
and I have
Where's
been,
the best
I have
Philly-
been indulging in many sandwiches.
Yes.
At the time to get back on my fitness routine is
here. Where's the best Philly
is
cheesesteak in
overdue.
Philly? Where's the best Philly cheesesteak in Philly?
I heard there's this place called Angelo's that's incredible, but my favorite personally is Jim's.
Jim's, eh?
Yeah.
Angelos. All right, okay. And when you go to Carolina, where do you usually eat?
I don't. I stay in the hotel across from the arena, and I get out of Carolina as fast as I can if I'm not going to play golf there.
Why?
Great place to play golf, but the arena and the hotel are side by side across from each other in the middle of nowhere, and not exactly the greatest place to. I don't want to shit on Carolina, beautiful state, but like Raleigh and that whole situation, it's just not. It's not the most. It's not New York City. Okay.
Oh wow! Really?
If I'm in New York City, I'm going out no matter what.
Yeah, I hear
I'm
you.
in Raleigh, I'm going to the hotel and going to the rink.
Oh, really? Eh?
Philly's a great town for that.
Florida's a nice trip.
Florida, I'll play pickleball.
You're gonna play pickleball in Florida?
Play pickleball in Florida.
With who?
I'm not sure yet. We'll see. You know what? The Panthers created this practice facility that they opened. Attached to it is a 24-hour pickleball facility with lights and everything. It is amazing. And the Panthers staff and everybody plays there on practice days. Great spot. I've played pickleball in Montreal with Marty Lapointe, who's amazing at pickleball. At the GM meetings, I played with Julien Brisebois, which was a ton of fun. He's amazing.
Oh, really?
I'm really into this sport. I love it, and it's keeping me active. So
how good is Julien Brisebois at it?
Really good. The best of all the guys who play was Jarmo Kekalainen. He plays like 3 hours a day, and he's tremendous. But Julien is super competitive and really, really good. Like it was a lot of fun.
He's in shape too. He's in shape.
Marty Lapointe is fantastic too. Like really good.
Julien Brisebois went to Sparta.
Yes, had a great story, Julien.
Yeah,
he's a brilliant guy, brilliant manager. The work that he's done to keep that window open has been unbelievable.
And by the way, he went to Sparta in, let everyone know, baseball.
Yeah.
No,
he keeps in great shape. It was
Sparta in baseball.
We played singles in like peak Florida heat in the middle of the afternoon, and he was running me around pretty good. It was a good workout. He barely broke a sweat. I was after 3 sets, I was ready to faint.
Someone says, Tony, you should go play pickleball with Eric in Florida. I've never played pickleball.
I'm down, man.
I'd like to start, but no, I'm not gonna.
People don't know. They laugh it off. It's a phenomenal sport. I was a tennis player for a long time. I stopped playing tennis because I picked up golf and didn't want to spend any time doing anything other than golf, and then picked up pickleball because my dad got into it, and it's an awesome sport and a sick workout every time. So,
amazing. Have a good night and good pickleball to you in Florida. Ciao for now.
Take care.
Special thanks to Shane Gomo and Master Control. Thanks everyone for being there. The Montreal Canadiens will visit the St. Louis Blues tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on immediately following the hockey game with Pierre Maguire. Brought to you, of course, the Maguire Report, brought to you by Restaurant Vago Italien. That goes tomorrow night. We'll talk to you again right after the hockey game.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. La Vida TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.